Xin chao, what's up, everybody? In this video today, we're going to talk about the foreign tourists and tipping, and we're also going to talk about the Koreans and how they're affecting the market in Saigon, Vietnam currently. It is a pretty large impact on overall price of things, especially in the nightlife, women, all kinds of stuff. Not saying just Koreans because that's crazy to say, but Koreans have definitely had an impact on especially the nightlife in like Japantown, Lithanton. The dating has changed a bit with the younger girls as well. They're much more going for the Korean guys. And Koreans are the number one tourist coming into Vietnam right now. Like, Koreans really see that it's a place to be and that your money can go very far. The other thing that they're assisting in is, you know, the price of rent for the higher end. They're not negotiating, and they're willing to just kind of pay whatever because they're comparing it to Korea. Which I don't know if that would be the exact way that I would go about doing that, but a lot of times their job is even paying for it here, so they have a company that's paying for their. But it definitely has had an effect on markets. You'll see more and more of these younger girls with like the new iPhone and perfect hair and all that stuff, and who think they're nines and tens. They're very often now with like an older Korean, mid 30s, 40-year-old guy that looks like he has a bunch of money. Does he really? Who knows? But this is an ongoing trend that's been happening more and more aggressively every month. So you'll see when you go walk around. If you go walk around like District 1 or any of the tourist areas, you'll see an alarming amount of Korean dudes with younger Vietnamese girls, which is fine. I absolutely love Koreans, Onagio, so I have nothing wrong with that. But it definitely is becoming a noticeable thing in the market. If you go on my like live streams on Kick, it's talked about on there by some of the people. We are live streaming over on YouTube as well now, but it's only on YouTube Shorts on the YouTube channel. So I think the schedule for that is pretty much we start at like noon Vietnamese time and go to about 5 or 6 p.m. So pretty much like midnight America time for you guys over there. So I apologies. I don't like to be out too late at night anymore, and I drink less, so it's easier for me to drink less during the day and go out and stream and do that stuff. So that's kind of what we've been doing. As far as tipping in the Vietnamese culture, let's talk about tipping in the Vietnamese culture. No, don't tip. Don't start tipping. It's a no-tip culture, very much so like Japan is. You can tip, though. They're not going to say no. People are starting to tip here. I'll be honest with you, I tip when it's deserved. So, like, if we're at a restaurant and a girl's crushing it or a guy's crushing it and they're hustling, I'll definitely throw them a tip. And that's usually really the only time I'll throw a tip. You really don't need to be tipping here. It doesn't really gain you much. Other places where I tipped is like a Western style place. Like if I was going to Pastor, I would tip at Pastor Bar when I used to go there. But really, a rule of thumb I would say is not really too big of a deal on the tipping. And unless it's really called for, unless somebody really goes above and beyond duty, do you really need to tip in Vietnam? Let me know what you think in the comment section. Do you tip? Let's read a little bit of this article and see what they say. Tipping is a common cultural practice among many international tourists, but they deem it inappropriate for service providers to try to force it on visitors via suggestions. There's been constant talk of why the tourism numbers aren't good, etc., etc., etc. And then there's articles like this of talking about tipping and the one thing that I've kind of noticed over the board, and it's not just a thing in Vietnam, is a lot of places are still just trying to recuperate their money from when they were out of business for a year or two. So I do think you see a bit more greed in the Vietnam market. So people tend to come here and not want to come back if they get ripped off few times. And it's very difficult to explain to like these bar owners, like, hey, if you treat that guy good instead of ripping him off, he'll probably come back for years to come. Like, they're really worried about money now and not ever planning longevity into things. Some are, but from my experience with most things I've dealt with, like customer services just doesn't exist. It's a very much so an afterthought. And it's agreed essentially is kind of how the market's driven, which is a shame, but Eventually it'll have to change. I think the tourism market is starting to see that, they're not doing the greatest job of bringing people in and people coming here. You can fire up any of these news things and see all kinds of negative articles on all kinds of shit that happens to tourists when they come. I try to keep the channel positive. I love Vietnam. I still recommend, if you're on the fence for coming here or moving here, to do it. It's still been the best decision I've ever done in my whole life. So, but as far as tipping, like if I go and do a tour thing and there's a set tour, like Winnie will occasionally like to do that. I think the last one we did was like in Dalat. We did a food tour with a guy and it was $60. I didn't give that guy any extra money. It was $60. Why am I giving him more than $60? He did an okay job. If he would have done a really good job, I might have gave him like 80 or $100 or something. But it was you could tell he had done the tour a billion times. He wasn't adding anything new to it. Kind of just calling it in essentially, and you could feel that. Let's see what the comments say in here. Don't change Vietnam, let Vietnam change you. I'm always happy to tip. Do not tip. Tipping has ruined Canada and US. Please do not allow tipping. Let's keep it that way. I'm not going to say anti-tipping. I'm not going to go on the anti-tipping tip. Like I said, if it's there, sure. But tipping everywhere, absolutely not. You're a fool to do that. And if you're going to all these bars and throwing around a bunch of tip money and shit, like you think these girls are going to treat you real great and you're going to get love there, you're just throwing money away. In the upcoming weeks, we're going to do a bunch of fun videos. One of them is going to be the most delusional expats in all of Asia, Farongs. And we'll talk about Farongs over in Thailand. Boys, you can get into the same trouble here. We're going to fire back up the advice videos for you guys trying to date here in Vietnam and finding love in all the wrong directions and wondering why. We're going to continue to give you the tips and help you out, boys. You guys seem to continue to make the same mistakes over and over again and not understand what a transactional relationship is when you enter one with a woman. So we'll continue to go over that with the challenge on the channel. With the Korean guys, a lot of people have asked me to shoot a specific video about this. I don't think they're ruining the market. It definitely has spoiled a bit of the apartment market, the women market. If you're a guy that's a good-looking dude and you're trying to date 20s to 30s, pretty hot chicks, you're competing with Korean dudes with money now, and they know it. So it's definitely added in a new dimension into the playing field of that. And then it goes in all kinds of directions, though. So anything you can kind of think of. For example, like Japantown, they were able to raise their prices and start ripping people off because Japanese and Koreans paid the price. They were like, sure, you rip me off, no problem, I'll pay. Instead of saying, no, I'm not going to come back because you're crazily over. You're charging they charge more expensive than a Tokyo bar does now. A Tokyo lady bar is cheaper than a lady bar in Japantown. How's that even possible? Well, I'll tell you right now, the Korean and the Japanese, they don't negotiate. They don't mind paying a high tab. So you let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you think the Koreans have affected the market? As ever, this is not a personal dig at Koreans. I got nothing but love for Koreans. Well, one of my best friends is Koreans here, so nothing but love to the Koreans. Don't take it personal. I'm curious to know your opinion. Let me know about your opinion in the tipping too. I'll see you guys on the live stream. Stay frosty. We'll see you on the next one.